Hello everyone and welcome back to our virtual Mishnah Berurah here. We are holding a Mishnah Berurah Chelik Gimel, and Mirz Hashem, today we will be learning Daf Tez Zayin Amud Aleph. We are continuing to learn Hilchos Shabbos. We find ourselves in the middle of Siman Reish Nun. We're discussing the proper Hachonos for Su'udai Shabbos, preparing for the Shabbos Suda. Our learning today should be a schos for Achedu Kol Beis Yisrael, Hanesudim Batzara Ubashivya Ha'imdim Bein Bayam Ubein Bayabasha Hamakayim Yerachem Aleihem V'Yitziam Mitzar L'Rvacha Me'afelu La'ira Umishibad L'Geula Hashta Bagala Uvizman Kariv and Emar Amen. So yesterday we began Siman Reish Nun, and the Mechaber introduced us to the idea, like he said at the beginning of Sif Aleph, Yashkim Babayker B'Yom Shishi L'Hachin Tzarchei Shabbos. We're supposed to get up early on Erev Shabbos to begin the preparations for Shabbos. We saw in the Mishnah Berurah brought down that the Zman for this is La'alter Babayker, which we saw means before the end of the third hour of the day. We mentioned also what the Pri Megadim brings down, is brought down in the Bir Halacha, that there's another shita that holds that really Yashkim Babayker means early in the morning, because we learn out from the word V'haya, that V'haya Bayom Hashishi V'echinu Es Hashem Yaviyu. From the word V'haya, we learn out that this should be immediately in the morning. Be that as it may, either way, we find that there's a specific mitzvah: get up on Erev Shabbos and begin your hachanos for the Suda. Now, says the Mechaber, at the end of the line here in the Shulchan Aruch Tesvav Amud Beis, Va'afilu yesh lo kama avodim l'shamshay. Even somebody who has many avodim, he has many servants, he has many people who could be meshamishim, who could help him out. So really, it's not necessary for him to be busy with the hachanos for the Suda. He has workers, he has people who could take care of the Shabbos Suda. Still, says the Mechaber, Yishtadel, he should put in effort, lahachin ba'atzmai shum davar, to prepare something on his own, litzarchei Shabbos, for Shabbos, kedei lechabdoi, in order to be mechabed Shabbos. And now the Mechaber brings down Gedolim who did this. Ki Rav Chisda and Amoira, Ki Rav Chisda hayam mechate chayarak dak dak. We find brought down that Rav Chisda would sit down and he would finely chop up vegetables. He would make a beautiful Israeli salad for the Shabbos Suda. V'Rabba v'Rav Yosef mor Amaroyim hayu mevakin eitzim. They would go out and chop wood to be able to have wood to build the fire to cook for Shabbos. V'Rebbi Zera hayamad l'koish, and Rebbe Zera would make sure to go kindle the fire and light up the fire on his own. V'Rav Nachman hayamisakin abayis. Rav Nachman would go around and he would prepare the house, he would clean the house and set up the house for Shabbos. Umachnis kelim atzvichim l'Shabbos, and he would take out the kelim that would be used for Shabbos, umefane klei achoil, and put away the weekday kelim. So here you see we have Gedolei Olam, we have Amaroim, who made sure to go out on their own, and not only to go out on their own, but realize they were also Mavatal Divrei Torah. They could have been sitting and learning, and instead they went ahead and they did all of these things on their own, L'tzarchei Shabbos, Umehem Yilmoid Kol Adam, and everybody should learn from them. And again, this is what the Mechaber is saying, that even if a person has other people to do the work, Yishtadel lahachin ba'atzmai shum davar l'tzarchei Shabbos kedei lechabdoi. Person should put an effort on his own to prepare for Shabbos and to be mechabed Shabbos. Continues the Mechaber, third line down near the end. V'lo yoimar, and a person, a mechubedik person, an Adam Gadol, should not say, V'lo yoimar, he should not say, Loi efgaim kvaidi, I'm not going to do something which is beneath me. Ki zehu kvaidai, because adarabah, the fact that he's going to be mechabed Shabbos, that's the greatest kibud for him. Shebechabed Shabbos, he's going ahead and he's being mechabed Shabbos for Hashem Yisbarach. That's not a pagam in his kavod, that's the geresta kavod. Let's take a look here in the Mishnah Berurah. Says the Mishnah Berurah is cotton gimel. Lahachin ba'atzmai. Even if a person has workers, he has other b'nei bayis, maybe he has Baruch Hashem a wife, he has children, he has daughters maybe, so he's not taking them away from learning. So he has other people to go ahead and do the Shabbos prep. And the Mechaber says no, person should go lahachin ba'atzmai. Says the Mishnah Berurah, the mitzvahs kvoyit Shabbos mutal al kol adam, because the mitzvah to be mechabed Shabbos is a mitzvah that applies to every single person. Ukidiksiv, we mentioned this all the way at the beginning of Chelik Gimel. This is like it says in the pasuk in Yeshaya, V'karasa la Shabbos einig. You should declare Shabbos to be an einig. You should declare Shabbos to be something delightful. V'karasa, this is a mitzvah on you. You should go about doing things to make sure that Shabbos is an einig, to make sure that Shabbos is delightful. V'karasa la Shabbos einig, likdosh Hashem, to Shabbos, which is kadosh for Hashem. So Shabbos, which is likdosh Hashem, mechubad. You should make sure that the kadosh Hashem, you should make sure that Shabbos, the kadosh Hashem, is mechubad. So the Mishnah Berurah is telling us over here, yes, you have to be mishtadel ba'atzmai because you have a mitzvah on you. Let's remember what we learned all the way in the beginning. The Mishnah Berurah brought down all the way in the beginning of Chelik Gimel and Reish Mem Beis. We have a dispute whether or not this is a mitzvah d'Rabbanan. This is Divrei Kabbalah. This is a pasuk in Yeshaya. It could be it's a mitzvah d'Rabbanan. There are others that learn that Einik Shabbos is actually a mitzvah d'Oraisa, because it comes from the fact that Shabbos is referred to as a mikra kodesh. But in any case, we certainly have a mitzvah on each individual person that they have to go put in effort to be mechabed Shabbos. Like the Mishnah Berurah continues, and he says, mitzvah boy yoser mi b'shluchai. It's a greater mitzvah that the person should do it on his own than he should give it over to a shliach to be done for him. It's always considered, whenever a person has a mitzvah, it's always better for him to do the mitzvah on his own than to give it over to a shliach to do. Maybe we will yet see that biur halacha inside. There's a very nice Dirshu footnote over here, Dirshu footnote number 15. They bring down over here, ubegoidel malos hachadas tzarchei haShabbos. If you want to see how great the mitzvah of being mechabed Shabbos is, kasav besifrei shem olam, v'shabati b'shem gadol echad. He writes over there, I heard in the name of a gadol, lefi mashi yadua mechazal. We know from Divrei Chazal, Shemi she'shomer Shabbos ba'olam hazeh, if somebody keeps Shabbos properly in olam hazeh, afilu im nischayev chas v'shalom oynish gehenem avur avonosav, even if in the olam emes he's chayev to spend some time in Gehenna because of his averis, einoy nena sham b'yom haShabbos. They don't punish him in Gehenna on Shabbos. Since he was Shomer Shabbos in Olam Hazeh, the reward, part of the reward that he gets for that in Olam Haba is that there's no Gehenna for him in Olam Haba. Now, how do you calculate Shabbos? Is Shabbos from Shkia on Erev Shabbos until Tzeis on Motzei Shabbos? Says over here, V'nechshav zman ha-Shabbos avuroi, for this person who engaged in hachana for Shabbos, a person who taka put in effort for kibbutz Shabbos, v'nechshav zman ha-Shabbos avuroi me'azman shehischil be'erev Shabbos lehisasek b'tzarchei Shabbos. You know when Shabbos begins in the context of not receiving any Gehenim on Shabbos? From the time that you started being oisik in Achana for Shabbos. So if you got up early Friday morning and right away you sat down to start chopping up the vegetables for the soup, that's when you're not going to have any Gehenim in Olam Emes. You're going to have from Erev Shabbos early in the morning. Umagina alav schus ha-Shabbos, the schus of Shabbos is going to protect him from the beginning of the time that he started preparing for Shabbos. V'siyem, shal kein ma'oid tzarech lehishtadel be'inyan tzarchei ha-Shabbos v'yitav loy bazeh ubaba. You see from here how much a person should put in effort for tzarchei Shabbos, and it will be good for him both in Olam Hazeh and in Olam Haba. Ubeha'ara sham ha'isif, shem izman shemaskalas ha'achonos l'Shabbos. Also, From the moment that you begin working on Tzarchei Shabbos, misnoitzetzetz alav kedushas haShabbos. You already start getting the nitzotzitz, the sparks, the rays of kedusha Shabbos start to come on you on Erev Shabbos when you begin to prepare, when you begin putting in effort for Hachana for Shabbos. Now, the Mishnah Berurah, so far what we see over here is the Mechaber is pointing out to us that it's very important for every individual to put in effort to do things l'tzarchei Shabbos. Don't rely on your bnei bayis. Don't rely just on your kids, on your family, or on the maybe the Eino Yehudi helpers, the maid, etc., etc. No, put in effort on your own to go prepare for Shabbos, and he points out to us that it's a mitzvah on each individual. The karasa l'Shabbos einig, and therefore mitzvah ba yoseh b'shluchai. If you take a look at the Shar Tzion Ois Cotton Tess, he brings down over here, it's very interesting. You're telling me that each person should put in hishtadlus because it's a mitzvah on him. And we saw over here in the Mechaber how the Amoraim went ahead and they did a lot on their own to prepare for Shabbos, even though that means that they were taking away time from the Beis HaMedrash, right? So you have over here Rav Chisda is chopping a salad, Rabbi Yosef chopping wood, Reb Zera is kindling a fire, Rab Nachman is cleaning the house. They could have been in the Beis HaMedrash when they were doing this. Now, why weren't they in the Beis HaMedrash? They weren't in the Beis HaMedrash because mitzvah by yoser mi b'shluchai? Do we always say mitzvah ba yoser mi b'shluchai even if you're going to take out time from limud HaTorah? So take a look here in the Shar Tzion. The Chofetz Chaim writes, V'nireh, it appears to me, says the Chofetz Chaim, d'lo shayich bazel loymar, over here you cannot apply the other rule, that mitzvah sheyuchal lasei sal yidei acherim, when there's a mitzvah that could be accomplished by somebody else, ein mevatlan hatalmid afilu lizman mu'at. Usually we say, if there's a mitzvah that needs to be done, but the mitzvah doesn't need you, anybody could go be mekayim the mitzvah, and there are other people available to do the mitzvah, so then don't leave the Beis HaMedrash. Why are you leaving the Beis HaMedrash to go do a mitzvah when there's somebody else who's not in the Beis HaMedrash that stands ready to do the mitzvah? Now, I'm saying this very carefully, because this does not mean that a person that's sitting in the Beis HaMedrash, when a mitzvah comes, he should say, it's a mitzvah sheyuchal lasei sal yidei acherim, so I'm not going to do it, I'm going to stay in the Beis HaMedrash. Do you know if there are acherim? Is there an acher that's ready to do the mitzvah? If everybody's going to say, mitzvah sheyuchal lasei sal yidei acherim, I'm not leaving the Beis HaMedrash, maybe nobody's going to leave the Beis HaMedrash and the mitzvah's not going to get done. So this only works if you know that there's an acher that's prepared to do the mitzvah. I know that the Yeshiva Zatzal, Rav Moshe writes in one of the Tshuvas in Nigris Moshe, if somebody is walking and he comes upon a meis mitzvah, and he is walking to the Beis HaMedrash, and he comes upon a meis mitzvah, and he knows that there are 6 people walking behind him. So he says to himself, I'm going to the Beis HaMedrash. The 6 people behind me, I don't know where they're going. So I'll go to the Beis HaMedrash, because the meis mitzvah is a mitzvah sheyuchal lasei sal yidei acherim. It doesn't need me. Let them do it. He says, you're not allowed to do that. You have to be osik in the mitzvah. If you came upon the meis mitzvah, you have to do it. Why? Mitzvah sheyuchal lasei sal yidei acherim? No, you don't. First of all, they're not here. They're behind you. And you don't know what their excuse is going to be. That's not called that it's a mitzvah sheyuchal lasei sal yidei acherim. Mitzvah sheyuchal lasei sal yidei acherim means you know that there are other people here that are ready to do the mitzvah. So if there are other people here ready to do the mitzvah, you stay in the Beis HaMedrash and don't be mevatel Torah. But in any case, the Shar Tzion is saying over here, I don't understand. You're telling that it's a mitzvah al kol echad v'karasa l'Shabbos einig. So it's a mitzvah al kol echad that they should put in effort to prepare for Shabbos, and even if there are other people to do it. And you see these gedolei olam, these Amoraim, they took away time from learning to go be meichid for Shabbos. Why? It's a mitzvah sheyuchal lasei yidei acherim. Taka, let the helpers do it. Let your daughters do it. So why are you going and running and doing it? L'chayr mitzvah sheyuchal lasei yidei acherim. You shouldn't be mevatel Torah. Says the Chofetz Chaim, no, you can't say that over here. He says, v'hacha halo yuchal lasei yidei shluchai. He says over here, l'chayra, you can have your shliach make the cholot. The adif hu mimishu acher legamri, and if it's your shliach, it's even better than acherim. In other words, what he's saying is like this. Usually we say, let the acherim do it, and you stay in front of the sefer. You stay learning. Over here, it doesn't even have to be acherim. It could be your own shliach. Your own shliach is even better than acherim. So why don't we let you have the Shabbos Suda prep be done al yedei your shliach, instead of you taking away time from Talmid Torah? Says the Chavetz Chaim Yesh Loimar that you could answer the dafka mitzvah she'ein mutelas al gufay. The only time we say that you're not mevatel Torah for a mitzvah sheyuchal lasas al yedei acherim is when it's not a mitzvah shebaguf. It's not a mitzvah that it is incumbent upon you to do. Kigoin sheyafsik be'emtza limud leilach ligmol chesed im eza adam. You want to leave the Mishnah in order to help somebody change a flat tire. You want to go leave the Mishnah to help somebody change a flat tire when you know that right outside there's a guy from Chaverim that stands ready, who's not in the Mishnah, who stands ready to go change the tire. So why are you doing it? It's not a mitzvah shebagufay. You don't have a chiyuv on your guf to go do this chesed right now. There's a mitzvah that needs to be done, but there's somebody else ready to do the mitzvah. Why are you leaving the Beis Medrash? Mashe ein kein bazeh. But over here, by the karasal Shabbos einig, it's not that way. Sha'akibut Shabbos mutelas al gufay. This is a mitzvah shebeguf. It's like putting on tefillin. You're not going to say, oh, let somebody else put on tefillin. Somebody else can't put on tefillin for you. You have a mitzvah shebeguf to put on tefillin. So too, you have a mitzvah shebeguf to go do tzarchei Shabbos, to go do something l'chvay Shabbos. You can't pass that off on a shliach, even if it means that you're going to have to be mevatel Torah. U'memela mitzvah by yoser mi b'shluchai. Inami, or you could say, says the Chavetz Chaim, the dafkel inin kibbutz Shabbos armin kein the chamira. Or it could be that kavod Shabbos is so chamor that yes, even though normally we would say that mitzvah sheyuchal asa yidei acherim, you're not mevatel Torah, not so by kavod Shabbos. Kavod Shabbos is so chamor that you're even mevatel Torah for it. Okay. Kasva Svarim, continuing in the Mishnah Berurah. Ois Kat and Gimel. Kasva Svarim, it's brought down in the Svarim, Yahar b'tshuva. A person should have hirhurei tshuva. He should think about the things that he's done that were not right, and he should work on tshuva. V'yafashvesh b'maisav. He should make a cheshbon hanefesh. He should go through his maisim of the whole week. B'chol erev Shabbos. Erev Shabbos is a time for a cheshbon hanefesh and tshuva. Ki Shabbos mikri kala malkasa. Shabbos is called the kala. Malava Malka, the queen, Shabbos Hamalka. Uki'ilu mekabel pnei melech yisparach shemai. On Shabbos, when we're mekabel Shabbos, we're being mekabel pnei shchina. We're bringing in the shchina on Shabbos. Ve'ein noel lekabel yushu lavish b'beluye asechavos shel chelas ha'avonos. Are we going to bring in the melech malchei amlochim when we're wearing a stained suit? We're not going to bring in the melech malchei amlochim when we're meluchlich in the tzaya of averus. So we got to clean ourselves. You go take a shower, l'kavod Shabbos, right? You go take a hot shower, l'kavod Shabbos. You go trim your beard, you shave, you cut your nails, l'kavod Shabbos. Alachas kama v'kama, you have to clean away the l'chluach of the avonos. You have to clean away the shemetz of the averis before Shabbos. Continues the Mishnah Berurah, v'yesh lafanois kurei achvish shekarin shpinvebish. It's an Indian to go clear away the cobwebs. In other words, you got to clean the house. So if you have cobwebs up in the corners by the ceiling on Erev Shabbos, take the broom, clean away the cobwebs. The chol sheked shetzarich lechabed abayis me'avok ve'ha'ofer ve'ha'ofar miba'od yom. Certainly you have to sweep out the house and clean the floors on Erev Shabbos early. V'zeu ha'kol b'klal k'vod Shabbos. This is all called kavod Shabbos. V'yadame b'daitoi, and a person should have in mind when he's preparing the house, ki'ilu yavay elav lehisach sein melech basar v'dam. A person should think to himself while he's cleaning the house, if I had a melech basar v'dam, or I had a psagroiser Rosh Hashiva coming to the house, I would clean the house, right? So if that's what I would do for a basar v'dam, Kama mechabed abayis umatzia hamitois. I would clean the house. I would make the beds. V'chol sheked Shabbos malkasa. Certainly, if Shabbos hamalka is coming to the house, certainly alachas kama v'kama, I have to do a good job of cleaning the house. Ois cotton dalit. So we see these gedolei olam, the Amoraim, who went to make sure that they did tzarchei Shabbos ba'atzmam. They went on their own. They didn't leave it to Bnei Beisam. They didn't leave it to their shluchim. They went on their own, and they went ahead and they did hachanos for Shabbos. And the Mechaber said, "Umehem yilmoid kol adam." Everyone should learn from them. Says the Mishnah Berurah Cotton Dalit. Hainu afilu hachoshev biyoser. Even the most choshev of people should learn a lesson, and they should do tzarchei Shabbos on their own. Ubefrat b'yamim akitzarim. Certainly on those short avei Shabbosais during the winter, when there's pashut time pressure. And if everybody in the household doesn't get involved in preparing for Shabbos, then things might not happen in a timely enough fashion. And certainly when it's crazy time, when it's a half an hour before Shabbos, then people have to make sure that they don't have any other involvements on their mind, and they have to get engaged in preparing for Shabbos. The Chavetz Chaim says, I saw Anshe Maisa Gedolei Torah Shahayu Mechabden Abayis Ba'atzman, who swept the floors of the house on their own, Bayamim Akitzarim, on the short Arvei Shabbosais, Kidei Shelo Yischalel Shabbos, Pashut, that no one should come to Chil Shabbos. What does this mean? Well, if the day is very short and there's a lot of pressure to get things ready, remember, nowadays the watch industry is going bust because we're surrounded by clocks. The phone has a clock on it. The smartwatch has a clock on it. I'm sitting by the computer has 3 clocks on it. Every electronic device, your microwave has a clock on it. Your oven, your stove has a clock on it. Your refrigerator has a clock on it. You're surrounded by clocks. Back in the day, it wasn't that way. Time was a much more, I'm not sure the word I'm looking for, but time, people didn't necessarily have the same sense of exactly what time it is. Now, it's Erev Shabbos, and it's a short Erev Shabbos, and everybody's struggling to get everything ready, and if people don't chip in and make sure that everything gets ready, you know what might happen, Chas v'Chalila? It might be that they'll be working on a Chanos for Shabbos after this month. Suddenly, at the last minute, somebody's sticking something into the oven, somebody's putting something on the blech, somebody is sweeping the floor, which if you have an earthen floor, that's the Issa Malacha of Boineh, because you're being mashve gumois, you're filling up the little indentations and ditches in the dirt. That's a tolda of Boineh. It could be Issa Daraisa. So you could come Pasha to Chil Shabbos, unless everybody chips in and makes sure that everything gets taken care of before the Zman. And the Mishnah Berurah says this is an absolute chiyuv on every person. What's the difference if you have to do it because you don't have anybody else to do it? Then everybody understands it's a davar pashut that you have a chiyuv a karasa l'Shabbos einig. If you don't have anybody else to do it, you pashut a chiyuv to do it. What's the difference between that? Or if you have shluchim to do it, but the shluchim don't have enough time to accomplish the task. Either way, you have to make sure that the task gets accomplished. So then it's a davar pashut that it's a chiyuv on you to go ahead and get involved. Now, Mechaber said, a person... Oh, we didn't do this yet. Okay, let's see the Ramah here, and then let's see if we have time for some beer halacha. Says the Ramah, very interesting halacha. Hagah. V'yesh lahashchiz hasakin be'erev Shabbos. There's a special inyan to sharpen the knife on Erev Shabbos. Ki zehu mikvayda Shabbos. The Ramah says that is an integral part of Kavod Shabbos, is sharpening the knife. Shemeichin atzmai la'achila. When you're sharpening the knife, what are you doing? You're making a preparation for the Suda. You need the knife for the Suda to cut the challah, maybe to cut the roast. So you're preparing for the Suda by sharpening the knife. So the Ramah brings down this inyan of sharpening the knife, and he gives a reason. He says that it's Kavod Shabbos because it's hachana for the Suda. Says the Mishnah Berurah, ki zehu, he says this is part of Kavod Shabbos. Ubesifri masmech la'akra. The Sifri bases this on a pasuk in Iyuv. The pasuk says, "V'yodata ki shalom ahalecha." You should know that there should be peace in your house. Zu hashchasas hasakin. This refers to sharpening the knife on Erev Shabbos. Ki im keha hasakin, because if the knife is dull, yuchal lavai lepamim lidei ktata chas v'shalom. If the knife is dull, there could come to be stress and an argument between husband and wife. This is like we mentioned yesterday. Why one of the reasons that there's a chiyuv on Erev Shabbos of Toyameh to go ahead and taste the food is just in case somebody forgot to put salt in the soup. You tasted it before Shabbos, you realized there was no salt, you add the salt. If you don't realize it till Shabbos, now you serve the soup, you taste the soup, there's no salt. Somebody's tired and he's in a grumpy mood, he turns to his wife and he says, I can't believe you forgot the salt. And now you have a ketata on Shabbos, which is even worse than having a ketata during the week. So too ashchasas hasakin, sharpen the knife, because if you don't sharpen the knife, you sit down to the Suda, you try to cut the roast, and the minute roast gets shredded, or the brisket gets shredded, and you get pulled beef instead of a nice slice of brisket. It could come to ketata, so therefore sharpen the knife. There's a lot of Torah on this. One of the things that's brought down is that there's an inyan to sharpen the knife on Erev Shabbos, because on Shabbos we're not supposed to use a serrated knife. Why don't we use a serrated knife on Shabbos? Because the cherev of the Malach HaMaves, the knife, the sword of the Malach HaMaves is serrated. So on Shabbos, we don't want to have any connection to Misa. On Shabbos, we use a non-serrated knife. It's brought down that that's also why we sharpen the knife. Because if a knife is not sharp, if a knife has nicks, the nick is like a serration. What's a serration? A serration is a bump in the knife that happens to be sharp, right? So we don't want any nicks in the knife. We want a nice, smooth knife so that the knife that we use on Shabbos is in no way similar to the cherev of the Malach HaMaves. I personally have a story in my mishpacha. We stam from a very big gadol, the Maram Ash. The Maram Ash was a Talmud Muvik of the Chassam Sofer. So it says by the Maram Ash that the Maram Ash was once sharpening his knife on Erev Shabbos. And he said to himself, why am I sharpening the knife by myself? Now it's true, we learned over here that la'olam yishtadel lahachim ba'atzmoi shum davar. A person should do Shabbos preparations on his own. But the Maram Ash reasoned, I already did other preparations for Shabbos. So I was already yotze this chiyuv. I already did preparations for Shabbos. Why do I bedafka have to sharpen the knife myself? I'll give the knife to my daughter, and I'll let my daughter sharpen the knife, and I'll go back to sit and learn. So he took the knife, he took the whetstone, he gave it to his daughter, he went to sit down and learn. What did he do? He went to sit down and learn. He took out a Shulchan Aruch, Aruch Chaim. He took the Shulchan Aruch, he opened up the Shulchan Aruch, and it opened exactly to this page, to the Ramah, V'yesh lahashchiz hasakin be'erev Shabbos. Said the Maramash, Vais t'chois, I should sharpen the knife on my own, l'kavod Shabbos, like I've always done. So he sharpened the knife on his own. It's also brought down from the Derech Chaim that it once happened by the Derech Chaim that there was a 3-day Yom Tov. I don't exactly remember which 3-day Yom Tov it was, but there was a 3-day Yom Tov where Shabbos was going to fall out after Yom Tov. And the Divrei Chaim was worried. He was concerned that he's not going to be able to sharpen the knife before Shabbos. So because it's a 3-day Yom Tov, you can't sharpen the knife on Yom Tov, so you're going to have to sharpen it all the way on Erev Yom Tov. By the time Shabbos comes around, the knife might already have nicks. So he was concerned about it. And then it came out that when he came on Shabbos, the knife was mamish beautifully sharp, and he was very besamech. They also bring down, I'm trying to remember from who, I think it was from the Divrei Chaim again. That one time Epis, he didn't sharpen the knife. And he was worried that the knife wasn't going to be sharp, and then it turned out that when he went to use the knife, it was mamish sharp and it cut like butter. Like a hot knife through butter, like they say. So he realized that somebody sharpened it. So he asked around who sharpened the knife. Now the person who sharpened the knife, when the Divrei Chaim came and asked who sharpened the knife, he was afraid maybe he did something wrong by sharpening the knife. So he didn't right away offer up, I sharpened the knife. The Divrei Chaim asked again, I want to know who sharpened the knife, and whoever it was should please tell me. So then the person said, okay, listen, Rebbe, I sharpened the knife. So the Divrei Chaim turned to him and gave him a bracha, sollst du leben mit gesund bis 120. And in the Kisvei of Tzanz and of Bobav, it's brought down that this Yid Taka lived to 120 from that bracha from the Divrei Chaim. So apparently there's a lot going on over here with sharpening the knife on Erev Shabbos. Listen, you know what they say, right? The famous vitz that they say of the Chassid and the Litvak, that the Chassid and the Litvak on Sukkot were together on the bus. They're each holding the lulav and the esrig. So the Litvak turns to the Chassid and he says, "Nu Zogmir, you Chassidim, every time you do something, you always have all sorts of interesting kavanas. What kavanas do you have by Daled Minim?" So the Chassid went and he went into the whole thing. He said, the lulav is connected to Shedra, and the esrig is connected to Leiv, and the Hadassim are connected to Einayim, and the Aravas are connected to Peh, and all the different kavanas. And it took the whole bus ride. They're getting off the bus together. And the Chassid turns to the Litvak and he says, "Nu, so what do you have in mind when you take a lulav and esrig?" So the Litvak looked at him and he said, "Shteit pasuk, v'lakachta lachem pri eitz adar kapis tomorrow v'araf eitz avos v'arvei nachal." So that's what I have in mind. That's what the Bari Elam said to do. Over here we have all of these interesting inyonim of the hashchasas hasakin. But the bottom line is that we have a Ramah. The Ramah says, "V'heish lahachshiz as hasakin be'erev Shabbos." You should sharpen the knife on erev Shabbos, and he gives a reason because it's considered hachana for the Suda, and obviously if this is a Ramah, v'chein roy lasais. I always say, you can tell from what I'm wearing and the way I speak, either I'm a Kalta Chassid or a Hesa Litvak. I stam from Chassidim. My family stams from echt Chassidim, but I grew up, I was raised in a Litvish fashion, and I learned the Litvish yeshivas. I'm a Talmid of my Rebbe, Reuven Feinstein, Stark. So I'm either a Kalta Chassid or a Hesa Litvak. I don't know which one, but I try to bring a blend of both to all of the shiurim. Okay, let's finish up this siman over here, Sif Beis. Says the Mechaber, Yarbe bebasar v'yayinu migdanois kifi yechaltai. On Shabbos, a person should be marbe bebasar. He should serve some delicious meat, v'yayin and good wine, or migdanois and delicacies, some Napoleons or ice cream or what have you, kifi yechaltai, according to his abilities. Says the Mishnah Berurah Kanvav, kifi yechaltai, ayin le'el b'siman reish ben beis. Go back to the beginning of Chel Gimel, to siman reish ben beis, shamavur kol hapratim hazeh. We spoke about all of the inyanim of Kibbutz Shabbos, of Einik Shabbos. We learned over there, brought down from the Gemara, that the ikar of Einik Shabbos is barashe shumin, heads of roasted garlic, dogim gedolim, big fish. The Mishnah Berurah brought down over there that in those days, in those regions, those were macholim chashuvim. So nowadays, what are macholim chashuvim? Each place, kefim and hagam, whatever is considered chashuv in that place. If a delicious piece of salmon is considered chashuv and that's what you enjoy, so then that's Kibbutz Shabbos. If prime rib is what goes, then it's prime rib. If sushi, I can't fathom sushi. If it's sushi, so then sushi is proper Kibbutz Shabbos. But that's what we should do. Okay, we have a little bit of time over here. I want to take a look here at the Bir Halacha. There's a Bir Halacha over here, Dibra Maschel Yishtadel. The Lashon of the Mechaber was very, very interesting. The Lashon of the Mechaber was, Va'afilu yesh loy kama avodim l'shamshoy. Even if a person has a household full of avodim, full of bnei bayis, he has plenty of people to work on Tzarchei Shabbos, still yishtadel, he should try, he should put in effort, lahachin ba'atzmai shum davar, to prepare something on his own, l'Tzarchei Shabbos k'dei l'chabtei. That's a very interesting lashon. Yishtadel, he should put in effort, he should try. Says the Mishnah Berurah over here. Says the Bir Halacha, Dibra Maschel Yishtadel. But Rambam Isal din zeh b'lashon chayiv. The Rambam doesn't say yishtadel. The Rambam says chayiv. You're obligated to do something on your own. He continues here, the Bir Halacha. He says, Shezel l'shoynai b'perek lamed halacha vav. This is the lashon of the Rambam in Hilchos Shabbos perek lamed halacha vav. Afal pi sheya adam chashuv b'yoser. Even if somebody is very much an adam chashuv, ve'ein darkei likach dvarim min hashuk, and he doesn't go shopping. You would do a double take if you saw him in ShopRite or in Gourmet Glatt. You'll never find him with a broom. He's always sitting over the sefer. But when it's Erev Shabbos and it's time to prepare for Shabbos, he's got to go begufay with his own guf, and he's got to do things l'tzarchei Shabbos. Shezehu kvaydai. That's the biggest kibbut, is to go ahead and do these things. Chachamim arishonim, the early chachamim, mehen mi shahayim afatza lo eitzim lavashel behen. There were those who chopped wood, like we saw here, Rabba and Rav Yosef. They chopped wood to make a fire to cook with. Umehen mi shahayim avashel. There were those who did the cooking. Oy malech basar, or they salted the meat. Oy goydel psilois, or they rolled and braided wicks. Oy madlik neiros, or they lit neiros. Umehen misha yoytzav v'kaina dvarim. There are those that went shopping. Shehein lutzar Shabbos. Mimaychel mashke. Afal pishein dark bekach. Even though it wasn't their derech. So you see that the Rambam uses the lashon over here of chayiv. Chayiv laseis dvarim. You're obligated to do these things. Not yishtadil. You should try. And continues to be our halacha. V'akavana, obviously the kavanah of the Rambam is not that you're mechuyev to do all of these things. You don't got to do the shopping and the cooking and the meat kashering and everything else. V'akavana eizet davrim and advarim, but something you're chayiv to do. V'ayin b'kedushin mem aleph amid aleph tekama sham mitzvah b'yoysim b'shluchay. And the Gemara in Kedushin says, like we learned in the Mishnah Berurah, you have a chiv to do this, the karasa l'Shabbos eidig, and mitzvah b'yoysim b'shluchay. So why is the mechaber, who always goes with the Rambam, suddenly over here he's saying yishtadel instead of chayiv? Says the Chavetz Chaim, after it's possible, the Rambam gamke lav chayiv gomorhu. Maybe the Rambam also didn't want to say that it's mamish a chiv. When he said chayiv, he didn't mean mamish a chiv. Ele ke'ein chayiva, mishum kvoid Shabbos. As far as the Rambam, the ilavachi loy hoy mavatlim kol hani amaram terasan avur. And the Rambam sees that it's ke'ein a chayiva from the fact that all of these Gedolei Olam did it. But it seems that the Mechaber saw in the Rambam, yes, the Rambam says chayiv, but it doesn't mean mamish chayiv. V'teida, and the shtickle arayah to this says the Bir Halacha, the lo yashacham the Gemara b'shem chayva. In Talmid Bavli, we don't find it called a chayva. Ki im al hadlakas ner b'Shabbos v'dav chafeim and beis. Hadlakas ner we find is a chiv. Only Indian shalosh suudais b'dav kaf yudayim and beis. And the chiv of shalosh suudais. When we come akam tzarachian. But the Bir Halacha is bringing down over here. You see what the Bir Halacha is doing? He's bringing down this kasha because, in a way, with this Bir Halacha, he's making it even stronger. The Mechaber came out very strong that everybody should be mishtadel to do work on his own, like these Gedolei Olam, these Amoraim who did. But the Bir Halacha is saying it's a little bit funny that the Mechaber said yishtadel. The Rambam says chayiv. No, he's metaritz. Must be that the Mechaber held that the Rambam doesn't mean that it's a chiyuv mamish, because we don't find in Shas that Shas uses a lashon of chayiv on it. But remember, we saw the karasa l'Shabbos einig. We saw that the Indian of Einig Shabbos could be as a daraisa from Mikra Kodesh. But that wouldn't necessarily mean that you have the chiyuv to go do the shopping. You have the chiyuv to go chop up the garlic. Okay. Now, I'd like to do the next Bir Halacha as well. We have a little bit of extra time over here. The Mechaber said that we should learn a lesson from these Amoraim who went and were Mavatal Torah to go do Hachana l'Shabbos on their own. We should all learn from them. And a person shouldn't say, it's beneath me. I'm a Talmid Chochom. I'm an Adam Gadol. It's beneath me to go sweep. It's beneath me to go shopping. No, that's the biggest kibbut, is that you're going ahead and being Mechaber Shabbos. Says the Bir Halacha. When the Mechaber says that the reason you should do it is because kizehu kvoidoi. Don't say it's beneath you, because adarabah. This is your kavod. Your kavod is that you're going ahead and you're doing things for Hachana l'Shabbos. Says the Bir Halacha, Yishev bazeh. The Mechaber is not just saying that to say it. He's saying it to answer a kasha. Yishev bazeh ma shehiksha b'shal zetshuvas Chavis Yair. The Chavis Yair has a kasha on this halacha. He asks, Eiche keilu b'kvaydam. How is it a davar pashut that an Adam Gadol, a Rosh Yeshiva, who never goes shopping, he never sweeps his house, how is it a davar pashut that for kavod Shabbos he should go ahead and do these things? L'chayra, he is being pagan b'chvaydai. He is doing something that's not b'kavodik for a Talmid Chochom. Hagadol kvayd abriya shadaycha loisa say shebet Torah. we find that kavod abrius is even doicha a loisasei. Now, loisasei over here doesn't mean a lav daraisa. It means a derabanan. Says the Bir Halach in the parentheses. Hainu loisasei derabanan. You could be over a derabanan for kavod abrius. V'sheva al taisa af b'dvar Torah. And a daraisa, kavod abrius is doicha daraisa b'sheva al taisa. For example, a meis mitzvah. Somebody is going to bring the carbon pesach, and he comes upon a meis mitzvah. A meis mitzvah is kavod abrius. There's a mace that's mutal b'bizayin. There's a dead body that's bizayin. That's keneged kavod abrius. So what do? You go bury the meis mitzvah, even though you're not going to make it to the Beis Hamikdash to bring your carbon pesach. So you're being mevatel and asay daraisa sheyesh by kares. You're being mevatel and asay daraisa sheyesh by kares b'sheva al taisa. You're not doing it b'yodayim. You're causing a situation where you're not going to be able to bring the carbon pesach. But that's for kavod abrius. So why don't we say over here that adarabba, it's keneged kavod abrius for this person to be sweeping the floor. It's keneged kavod abrius for this person to be caught in ShopRite. This is a chashuv Talmid Chochom. He doesn't go to ShopRite. So what's he doing in ShopRite? It's keneged kavod abrius. So why are we saying that it's a davar pashut that he should go to ShopRite to go do the shopping for Shabbos? By the way, I just have you know that my Rebbe Reuben Feinstein Zal Zayin Gesund Stark holds that it's the chiyuv of a husband to do shopping. I know that's a lot of people are going to give a double take, because you find by Ezer Kenegdoi the role of the husband, the role of the wife. The husband brings the raw materials into the house. The wife, Kol Kfuda Bas Melech Penima, takes the raw materials that the husband brings in and processes them. So the husband goes and shears the wool and brings in the wool. The wife takes the wool and spins it into thread. The husband goes and gets the animal, shechts the animal, brings in the meat. The woman kashers the meat, cooks the meat. So it's upon the husband to bring in the raw materials. So he says, Pashtus, it's the man's chiyuv to go shopping. Reb David, Zechet Tzadik V'Kadosh Livracha, went and did the shopping on his own. My Rebbe did plenty of shopping on his own. I went shopping with my Rebbe many times. So it's not a bizayon to go do shopping. But in any case, having said that, so we'll talk about sweeping the floor. If you have a Talmid Chochom and it's taka beneath his covet to go sweep the floor, he never sweeps the floor. Why are we saying over here that it's a davar pashut that he should do it like Kvod Shabbos? L'chayra, it's keneged kavod abrius. Lachein ka'amar, says the Bir Halacha, that's why the Mechaber says, Dizehu kvaydam. This is not beneath your covet. This is your covet when you go put an effort like Kvod Shabbos. Sha'oisik ba'atzvay b'mitzvah, that you're going and being oisik in a mitzvah. V'nikr sha'oisikein l'chvayd Hashem yisparach. And anybody who sees this grocer Rosh Yeshiva sweeping the floor on Erev Shabbos, they know why he's doing it. They know he's doing it like Kvod Shabbos. And we have a Raya Berurah to this from David HaMelech Olav Shalom. When David HaMelech brought in the Aron HaKodesh to its proper place, he was dancing in the street. And Michal Bashol looked at him like this was bizayendik. She made a comment to David HaMelech that you're degrading yourself in front of all the Yiddish women and everything. You're degrading yourself. David HaMelech said, I should be even more mevuzah, so to speak, than this. I'm dancing l'shem l'kvod shamayim. And everybody understood why he was dancing. Yaron Kodesh was there. So they understood why he was doing it. Now, on the other hand, if you're doing something that seems to be pchisistic, and it's not nicker that you're doing it l'kvod shamayim, then we wouldn't say this. We know the halacha is hashavas aveda is a mitzvah daraisa to return a lost object. But if it's a zaken leveinu lefi chvaydai, if a zaken, an elderly Talmid Chochom, if he finds an aveda, but it's something that a mechubadik person would never be found carrying, it's something unclean or something, so it's einu lefi chvaydai, then he's potter. He's potter from hashavas aveda daraisa because it's einu lefi chvaydai. Why? Why don't we say, what do you mean? That's Zehu Kvoidoi. The answer is because somebody seeing him carry a dirty thing in the street is not going to know that he's doing it because it's an Aveda. They're going to think he's doing something that's Ein Lefi Kvoidoi. He's going to make himself Mavuzah. That's not kavod abrius, so he's potter. But over here, sweeping the floor on Erev Shabbos, it's nicker why he's doing it. So, Zakavel v'chvayda b'aveda v'chadoyim sheb'schal k'vayda Talmid Chochom ha'yidei zeh. In that case, people don't understand that he's doing something l'shem mitzvah. That's why he's potter. But over here, sweeping on Erev Shabbos, everybody knows why he's doing it. And we could stop over here. Okay? Thank you so much for joining me for limud HaTorah, discussing limud HaTorah. Should be megan against Klal Yisrael. The Ran Shem should say Yeshua for his panas and shidduchim to all those in need. We should be zeichet to see the Bias Kal Tzedek. B'meher v'yameinu. Amen. Be well.